Hi, my name is Jody Shaw. I work in the Department of Residence Life in the Division of Student Affairs at Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts. I've been thinking a lot about how I got here and what's happened on the inside of me since I've been working at Smith. I've been thinking a lot about fear, but more than that, just about how this ideology works. So when I started working at Smith, I was told that racism is a big problem and that it's not actually an observable act. It's an invisible force that's embedded in structures and systems and certain people. And by certain people, I mean white people. I was told that white people uphold white supremacy and perpetuate racism simply by being white. And I had no reason. So we've moved from racism as something you do to racism being something that you are. And it's another way to put it. I had no reason to disbelieve Smith College. I'm not an academic, and I trusted them. And I was told that the best thing for me to do as a white person to help this situation is to do the work. It's called. The work at Smith is talking a lot about your white privilege in public with other people, talking about whiteness, reading about white supremacy, that kind of thing. And so I did the work, and I did it for two reasons. One, because I'm totally against racism and I want to be a good person, and I was told this is how I could help this problem. And the other reason was fear. I was afraid that if I didn't do the work, then I would be called a racist. And I was already on thin ice as a white person. Just being white is already default way of upholding racism. So it was really under duress looking back. So I started doing the work and very quickly felt this little voice inside me saying, something about this feels really wrong. And I was really upset about this voice because, as most of us know, white people are told if they have any resistance or discomfort to doing this work, then that means they are upholding, whether consciously or unconsciously, white supremacy and want to hold on to their white privilege. So it was really upsetting to me. I had this voice inside me because I thought, I must be racist if I have this voice inside me, and that made me feel really bad. And I was also afraid. I didn't want anybody to find out that I had this voice inside me, because then they would think I was a racist and they might even call me a racist. And we've seen what happens if you are publicly branded a racist. It's good potential for being cast out of the herd, so to speak. And that's pretty primal fear. I mean, it manifests as possibly losing your job and your reputation and getting harassed online, but really, I think it's a fear of being cast out of the herd. And so I did everything I could to suppress this voice, to ignore it, to push it away. And now, looking back, I recognize that voice is a deep part of me. It's my moral center, really. And that voice helps me distinguish between right and wrong. So the fact that I had turned on this voice, it was like, I felt like I had betrayed myself or something. And so I turned on it, and that's what this ideology does. It causes us to turn on ourselves and deny a deeply honest part of ourselves. It's kind of like an autoimmune response. So in a healthy immune response, your Like a virus comes into the body and your body gets a bunch of white blood cells and attacks and kills it. When in an autoimmune response, the body mistakenly identifies healthy tissue as the enemy and attacks and kills it. And that's exactly what was going on, except it was in my psyche. So now I understand a little bit better how this works and how it's manipulation. Basically, it's a lot of manipulation, a lot of manipulating people into denying a very important part of themselves. Because if that's the part of ourselves that keeps us honest and helps us distinguish right from wrong, if we're cut off from it, then we are probably capable of committing a whole lot of things that we would normally wouldn't. And so it's probably not a good idea to have a bunch of people walking around who are severed from that part of their psyche. It just doesn't seem like a good idea for each other, and probably makes it less likely for us to be able to connect with one another in a deep way, authentically, and feel empathy. Things that are really important, I would think, to have a more just and connected society. So it's just the opposite of what happens when you cut yourself off. So naturally, this newfound knowledge is upsetting to me. And I only started thinking about it because I was asked a question recently. It was in my last video. And I felt this spasm of fear. And I responded, my response was totally fear-based. And it was as if I didn't have access to a deeper part of myself that would have allowed me to have a more thoughtful, honest response. And I think that means there's still some damage. I'm still cut off in some ways. And so I still have some work to do. So I'm here to tell you, if you're watching this and this is going on for you and you have a little voice inside you saying something about this feels wrong, that's because there is something wrong. There's something deeply wrong about this ideology and about the way it's pushed onto people and the way it tricks us into betraying ourselves. There's something deeply wrong, I think. And I want you to know that you're not alone and you're not crazy and you're not racist. That voice inside you is not race. You're inner racist. And yeah, if you're wondering if you're racist, you're probably not racist. And I'm going to go on making videos, but I think if I could tell somebody anything, it would be to help the situation at all would be to just find one other person. It can be your neighbor or your mother or your brother. I think it would be great if it was somebody who's in the situation with you, somebody else who actually knows what's going on, that you can be totally honest with and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking inside. This is what my voice is saying, my gut. And then to have that person mirror back to you and say, yeah, I'm feeling that way too. And it relieves so much pressure on yourself of these voices inside you thinking that you're racist or you're crazy or something. Just one other person. And then you can start to get a little more perspective on it, because when you're just totally grounded in this fear place, it's really, really hard to understand what's going on. I mean, that's no way to live, and that's no way to achieve a more just society. It's the exact opposite. So those are my thoughts for tonight. I hope everyone's doing okay, and let's keep talking. Jody Shaw signing off.